Hi, this is George Parsons with Big Top Leadership, and welcome to the year 2021. Today we're going to continue our discussions on the DISC behavioral styles. If you remember, the last video we discussed was the D behavioral style and the traits that people with that style tend to use as they're communicating out in the world. Today we're going to go to the second primary style, and it is the I style. The I style is very influencing and very interactive. They tend to like being around people. So, what are the 7 prominent characteristics displayed by this I style? Well, as I said, they're very people oriented. They tend to be highly social and they love to be around people. If they can't be around people, it will take energy away from them. Next, they tend to be emotional. They will tend to display emotions on their sleeves. They will tend to show the way they feel. They're also good at being empathetic. They can understand the way people around them are feeling. They tend to be talkative. They are very persuasive with their communication style. They will tend to talk to get people to do what they want, to get themselves out of some difficult situation. They can use their communication to get across what they need to get across. They tend to be fun-loving. For an I, it's always a party waiting to happen. They want to have fun. They want to interact with people. That I behavioral style always tends to be optimistic. They always see the positive sides of things. They rarely will see the negative side of a situation. They tend to be very spontaneous. They can go with the flow. They don't tend to plan things out. They don't worry about what's going to happen 24 hours from now. They just go with what's happening in the current situation. The one thing the I behavior does look for is they seek social acceptance. They want to be liked. So, now if you look at those 7 prominent characteristics, how does the I then behave if they go under stress? Well, the greatest fear for this person who has this primary I behavioral style is not being liked. They want to be liked, and when they believe that that becomes an issue, they will move from being interactive to permissive. And when we talk later in terms of parenting children, the I behavior can become an issue because of that need to want to be liked and wanting to be liked by your children. What are the other ways that an I will behave under stress? Well, they will become more impulsive with their decisions. They tend to do a good job including people in their decisions until they go under stress, and then they're going to behave a little bit more like that D behavior. I's are naturally a little bit disorganized. Because they live for the moment and they don't plan for the future, organization is not at the top of their priority list. But when they go under pressure, they can get even more disorganized and can appear to be a little scatterbrained. The other thing that can happen with this type of behavior is when they go under stress, they will tend to exaggerate conditions or facts to persuade people. It's not that they're not telling the truth, they're just stretching out the facts. And they're using that to persuade individuals. The other thing under stress is they will become overly concerned with the feelings of others. That will just swallow them up, worrying about how people are going to react. Are people going to like this? It is a strong trait of that I-type behavior. And lastly, under a lot of stress, they can really tend to lose emotional control. They will just, they will lose it, and they tend to have a very difficult time thinking things through. So, as you sit out there and you're listening to this, hopefully, how do you know if you have this I primary behavior? Well, again, one of the things we do at Big Top Leadership is training to work with you and groups to help you determine your behavior and make your skills for interacting better. But can you answer yes to any of these questions? Do you like to talk? Do you not have an issue talking with strangers? Are you comfortable in large groups? Are you comfortable if you and a spouse or significant other go out to a party and it's a large group of people you don't know, and it doesn't bother you at all to start walking around and talking to people? Do you not have an issue talking to new people? If you're on an airplane and there's somebody sitting beside you you don't know, are you willing to talk to them? When you're doing work, you can be very persuasive. And one of the skills that you'll display is using that persuasion to get people to join you in work. Think about the story of Tom Sawyer painting the fence. Tom was probably a high I because he had great skills of persuasion in getting others to join him in doing that work. Being with people gives you energy. We're going to talk about other styles, and there are people that when they feel exhausted, they have got to retreat and be by themselves. But for an I, when they feel that exhaustion, they actually need to go out and be around people. Retreating and being by yourself for an I will create even more stress. When you start something new, do you just jump into that new activity with great enthusiasm? You love to do things, and you love to be with new people. And again, you tend to always look at the positive side of things. The glass is always half full. In terms of empathy, you're good at understanding how others feel. And you don't have any kind of reservations about expressing how you feel about things. Some people don't want to talk about their feelings. I's do not tend to have an issue in talking about the way they feel. Another thing with I's is they do not have an issue getting up and talking in front of a large group. How many people out there just have a great fear of getting up and having to talk in front of a group of people? Well, if you have that, I will guess at least most of you are not I behavior. I's tend to be a person that wants to be at the center of attention, and they have a lot of friends. Now, those friends may not be as close, but they have a large circle of friends that they like to be with. Now, we talked about this earlier. They're not always as organized as they should be. There's going to be two types of behavior that when you walk into their office, there could be stuff all over the desk. It's just everywhere. Now, the I behavior, it's going to be that way, and they're going to have no idea what's there and where anything's at. Now, when we talk about the C behavior, they may be like that, but they'll know where every last scrap of paper is, and when you ask them a question, they'll immediately be able to find it. Now, with the I behaviors, they like to start projects. They like to do new things. They like to be with people. But one of the difficulties for them can be they have trouble completing projects. So, does that sound like you, that you start things but you have trouble completing them? Also, that I behavior can tend to think about things differently. They have a lot of creativity. They tend to think out of the box. And they can be very imaginative. So, How many of those things can you say yes to? Are you an I? Now, for those people out there who have families, you may want to look at this in terms of their children. Let's talk about an I child. They're going to be relatively easy to spot out in the world. With that I child, they want to have fun, and you better plan for them to have fun, because if you don't plan for them to have fun, it's going to create a lot of stress for them. You want to give them constant encouragement, because if you remember, the thing we talked about for an I is not being liked is their greatest fear. So you need to give them encouragement that they are being liked. When you give them a task to do, because they tend to be disorganized, you need to put instructions for them in writing. When they get to that age where they can read, and you can write down on a list that says, okay, here's what I want you to do. I want you to put up your clean clothes. I want you to clean your room. And then I want you to vacuum the carpet. You need to put that in writing, because otherwise they will forget about it and move on to the next thing that creates fun for them. When you are giving this I behavior, rewards or recognition, you need to do it quickly so it reinforces what they did, and you also need to do it openly. Other behavioral styles would rather you do it quietly with no one around. Again, the I wants to be the center of attention, so they want it to be done openly. Now, at home, that I behavior, you need to show affection. They need hugs and kisses. They need to know they're accepted. They need to know that the way they feel is okay. The other thing you're going to find with an I child is they want to be doing whatever else everyone else is doing. If you give them a task to go do by themselves and the rest of the family is going to do something else, that I child's going to struggle. They're not going to like that. They want to be in the middle of the action. They want to be included. Now, one thing you got to do with that I child at home is you got to help them work through the details. You got to help them work through the structure that needs to be in place to get things done. That can include chores around the house, or that can include homework. They can struggle with creating the structure themselves that's needed to complete homework. Now, the worst thing that parents with an I child can do is to be cool, aloof, or distant with them, because they're immediately going to go to there's something wrong and it's my fault. They crave that affection. The other thing you've got to be careful with an I child is in terms of being critical or judgmental. And that can play even a greater role if you do that in public, because it embarrasses them. And they internalize that as they don't like me. Why do my mom and dad not like me? You need to do that criticism and teaching one-on-one so that they're not being embarrassed by it. And the last thing you're going to find with that I child is they've got to be active. They've got to be doing things. They've got to be around people, and they've got to be with friends. It is going to put tremendous stress on that I child if you tell them to go to a room and be by themselves. They're going to do anything they can to create interaction with people on the outside. So, are you an I? Is one of your children an I? With our next video, we'll talk about the S behavior, or the specialist, and the soft-hearted person. It is the most prominent behavior of the average person in the world. and it is a great behavior to get people working together and in a team. Thank you for listening, and if you have any questions or need any further information, please view our website at bigtopleadership.com, or on our website, hit contact us and send us an email. Thank you and have a good day.